said today about this thing of self. It comes up over and over again, giving you an impression that the development of self will improve who we are. They many times call it self-awareness. This chapter will be dealing with this and reveals the dangers of its use in the occult world. I begin with a clear definition of the word source. Source originates, one that causes, creates, or initiates, one that supplies information, a record, as a book or document, supplying primary or first-hand information. Weed's translation of John chapter 3, verse 3. The second birth having the same source as the first. Note, if you see your first birth source as your natural mother, father, your second birth will be just a religious matter. Why? First of all, your idea of this word birth is limited to what you know in this experience. Seeing natural birth, we think of non-existence prior to birth. Before conception, we think we were not. Though what we have become was not. But who we were was, and always will be, never existed. The new birth, or being born again, is in truth an awakening to what was, or could have been. What we have become was intended to be only a temporary experience that originally was to a good rather than an evil intent. Another source under this experience. We've labeled the evil, the devil, but what really defines it is self. We have heard one being self-condemned. This self seeks to trap us in this temporary experience. It is my hope to bring this out clear, so let's begin. It's a matter of perceiving this experience for what it was intended, temporal. Any other source that gives you a utopian idea of this world, claiming we are evolving higher without the help of some unseen source, God, is the father of a lie. It is written that to each of us was measured faith. That would be considered the original source. Yet another source, which is that scene of this present experience, entered, clouding out the original source. It is written, the just shall live by faith and not by sight. Self, in the scene, chose to walk according to its perceptions, cut off from the original source, thus has become trapped in his self-established views, thus is self-condemned, or what they call egocentric, holding one's present point of view. Having gone about salvaging its ideas of reality, it has forfeit that which is true reality. It lives in the world, has been subjected to the unreality, Romans 8:20. This subjection was given by the original source, God, as a means of hope, hoping to direct those trapped in this seen reality to something better, and that which self is unwilling to see, the unseen, that eternal realm we call heaven. The very creation moans and groans waiting for self in its limited views to die, and that original intent be manifested. It is only then that what was really intended will be accomplished. The first mention of this word faith defines itself in written text. And he said, I will hide myself from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. Deuteronomy 32, verse 20. Now it is also written in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 2. And that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men. For all men have not faith. All men have not faith, meaning they walk according to another source. Self. We live in a forward generation. A generation that lives according to self-acquired knowledge apart from the unseen. To them the unseen is just that, unseen, unheard of. Thus they see no other source of information. And if anyone says anything to the contrary, he's considered crazy. This is developed in my book, The Devil's Scarecrow, which develops our learning to hear from God, the true source of wisdom and knowledge. Noting above our definition of source, a record as a book or document supplying primary or first-hand information. It is written, we have a more sure word of prophecy that we should pay attention to as a light that shines in a dark place until the day dawns and the day star arises in your heart. 2 Peter 1:19. I do not object to the reading of the Bible, but I would object to those who get trapped in its covers and form a religion from it, never going on beyond the covers of that book and come to what has just been written, until the day dawns and the day star rises in your heart. Yes, we have first-hand information from those who have come to this until, yet we cannot live out of their coming to this until. We must come to it ourselves. We can read of how they came, but still we must come to surrender ourselves to it. What they gain from this surrender of self, we can read about. They gain the God-given ability to hear for themselves the very voice of God. If we do the same, we gain the original source of information to run our course in this life's experience. If not, we only end up having only a form what is called godliness. Godliness being the true source of what mankind has in a limited form, which we have discussed in this book as the flesh, and tapping into the latent powers of the subconscious mind, thus, though powerful, still limited, being cut off from the true source of all power, God the Father, and now the Son of God, to whom God gave all power. Following the original source, all the warnings I have entered so far in this book will not distract you. You will learn to hear his voice. You will not follow another. Chapter 6. Healing of the Blind Rooster. You are children of the light, and that day shall not come upon you unaware. At the rising of the sun, the rooster crows. Yet if the rooster is blind, how shall it know that the day is dawning or not? The institution of religion, mainstream and that of the occult, is this blind rooster that needs healing. It has in its blindness led many astray, crowing when it was not yet day. This blindness of the rooster, those who have sought to form a private interpretation of the precious word given, have cried, he's coming, and he is not shown. It started in the early beginnings of the assembly called out, the church. A letter forged with the apostle's name caused panic. 2 Thessalonians 2:2. This was the first crow of this blind rooster. 2 letters had to be written to refute this false cry. We called them 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Down through religious history, you can hear the cry of this blind rooster. He's coming, yet he did not appear. Many sold everything, leaving families, homes, and jobs, following these blind roosters to the ends of the earth. There is a way that appears right, but the ends are the ways of death. The rooster is still blind today, but its cry has changed. It no longer cries, he's coming, but rather, he's here. Now that is a blind rooster indeed. Is he here? Some will point out that, in a sense, he has come to each of us. He is in us. So his appearing was accomplished. It was a spiritual coming and didn't imply a literal affair. This is what I mean by the changes of the rooster's cry from his coming to he's here. It is still the cry of a blind rooster. How does this blind rooster know? Not being able to see would say, I feel it. So to this blind rooster is just a feeling and not a literal affair. One need not see, thus remains blind. It is my belief that the rooster needs healing. But before healing this rooster, I wanted to know where and when it went blind. Jesus once pronounced a nation as blind, a nation that claimed to see. Matthew chapter 23, verses 24 to 39. It had been blind so long that it no longer knew it was blind. They rejected the claim of their blindness from the Son of God, claiming they could see. He replied, because you say you see, and do not, your sin remains with you. John 9, verse 43. Is it possible that today we might claim to see, yet be blind, forgetting what seeing ever was? Like it was once said to me, have you ever had a dream that you was sure was so real? What if you were unable to wake up from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world? Believe me, the rooster needs healing. Healing must come before it thinks to crow again. Do I dare make such a claim? Or am I just another blind rooster crowing, seeing something when it hasn't the ability to see? If so, don't listen to me. Yet if I claim I see, and do see, what is it that I have seen? Well, I have been crowing this for some time, that the dawning is upon us. A mystery has been revealed, and it is from whence we came, we must return. That return starts here now. He comes in the sense that you return. It is literal. Is it literal? Yes. It is more real than this dream you are now living in and dare to call real. His physical coming is for a world that does not believe he ever came or will come again. Thus do not seek to return, only desiring to keep going with what is called real. So you can catch what I meant in other writings by what I have called half-truths. In his second coming, is his second coming a spiritual matter? Yes. Is his second coming a physical matter? Yes. To side with only one side of this matter of his coming is to only have half of the truth. The religious minds of the past looked for a physical kingdom, yet rejected spiritual king. Today the religious mind looks for the coming king, yet reject the spiritual kingdom. A kingdom that is in you, with open doors, a place where you can come and go, here and now, and not wait for the sweet by and by. This kingdom is called our Mother and God our Father. Without both, there is no awakening. Mother Earth is not our mother. Earth is just a stage upon which we of the spiritual king were to express who we were, who our Father is, then return. What is missed by many is the fact that this so-called kingdom of this earth is not the real kingdom, even though Christ will establish a 1,000-year reign on this planet in the future. What they miss is that God's original plan and use of this planet had eternal purposes that are more real than anything this world has to offer. How can we claim that this planet is what God really intended when it clearly says that eye has not seen or ear heard those things God has prepared for those that love Him? Our eyes and ears have yet to experience what this text was revealing. In the next chapter, I will go deeper on this matter of the seen and the unseen. You will hear it used in the world of the occult. I share in this next chapter will reveal what I am saying and they are saying and the difference. Chapter 7. The unseen that is seen in Scriptures. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 9 to 10. But it is written, eye have not seen, nor ear heard, neither has entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love Him. But God hath revealed them unto us by His Spirit. For the Spirit searches all things, yea, the deep things of God. Romans 1, verse 20. For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. Colossians chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, hath translated us into the kingdom of His dear Son, in whom we have redemption through His blood, even the forgiveness of sin, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Colossians 1:16. For by Him were all things created, that are in heaven, that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by Him and for Him. 1 Timothy 1:17. Thou unto the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only wise God, to be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen. Hebrews 11:27. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing Him who is invisible. Romans 8:24. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why does he yet hope? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. 2 Corinthians 4:10. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:3. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. This verse alone throws out evolution. There are many more scriptures which may not use the word invisible or unseen, yet is implied and is referred to the unseen. This unseen is God and the realm in which he dwells, and we will one day. The words unseen or invisible used in Scripture reaches beyond our ideas or a dictionary definition of them. My Franklin Dictionary gives this definition. Combination of prefix un and word seen. 1. Not. 2. Opposite of, implying the opposite of that seen is that which is unseen. Just with this definition, it does touch what I'm thinking when I use the term unseen in my writings. Heaven, that unseen, is opposite of earth, which is seen. It is not saying that this area which we might call the unseen is not. It is, and it is eternal and more real than that which we have experienced in this material world. It is this unseen that holds this seen world and us together. Colossians 1:17. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. Hebrews 1:3. Who being the brightness of his glory, and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power. Acts 17:28. For in him we live and move and have our being. As certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone graven by art and man's device. That unseen, or that realm which we call heaven, is a real place. Yet what we might call a place is a poor copy at best of the eternal idea of place. In the eternal realm, now that is going to be a place to be. Reflecting further, read Hebrews 12:25. See that you refuse not him that speaks, for if they escape not who refused him that spake on earth, much more shall not we escape, if we turn away from him that speaks from heaven. The unseen realm, which is the opposite of our experience. In other words, if we can't hear God speaking through one of his human messengers, what makes you think you will ever come to believe that this invisible God will speak to you from heaven, which to your mind is unseen or unreal? Just tell your family members, friends, work associates, neighbors that you speak to God, and he speaks to you. Say this to them, and listen for the reaction from most. You're unreal. You're talking to something that is unseen, which isn't there. If they catch you talking out loud to them, they will say, who are you talking to? The question which has to be asked is what is more real to us, the seen or the unseen. Now you'll see those in the occult world using this term of seen and unseen. Let me say this so that you will see that what I'm saying and they are saying are quite different. I use this as expression, a box in a box. In their use of unseen matters, they are only creating another box in a box. We have all heard the expression outside the box, developed in the next chapter. I have used this expression a lot. Yet in my usage, when I say out of the box, I mean really outside the box. Totally outside the realm of what we've come to call time, space, and the material world. I am referring to a different realm of time and a different space and a true source of what we call the material world. It is that realm that holds this temporal world together. God created this universe of ours not as an extension of himself, but only an expression to which this world of our experience is at best a poor copy. Humanity hasn't helped matters with its destructive tendencies. I'm working on another book that will be taking this subject matter to its greater depths. Here I am only giving you a few glimpses of that study. Chapter 8. Outside the box defined. I had mentioned in Chapter 3 this thing of outside the box and how I refrained from using it because evil had picked up on it and distorted it. Here's a clear definition of what I mean when I do use it. I offer this as a definition of what is meant by outside the box to give a clarification. Those things which I will be sharing in this book are biblically based. Many things which modern science are only now beginning to see. The foundation of all that I will share can be found in this scriptural text, Hebrews 11:3. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Let me put this as I've seen it. Through hearing from God, beyond the seen to that unseen, out of the box, the personified superintelligence from which all things came into being, we gain understanding, even revelation. Without such revelation, we could not have ever figured out God, ourselves, and the world around us, because eye has not seen this, nor ear heard it. Human intelligence, acting independent from this source of intelligence, will come up with some of the crazy ideas of God, humanity, and the world around us. Just go to your education system and you'll see what I mean. Through hearing from this God, beyond human intelligence, you come to understand how the worlds were framed, came about, by the very speaking of words by this personified supreme intelligence God. If we do not have this intelligence given to us, give a revelation, our ideas of it all misses the mark. And any idea we have of God, ourselves, this world, and creation around us are incorrect. Know this, the things which were made were not made of things which do appear. Things in the box did not originate from the box. Catch this phrase. First cause lends no credit to that cause. By this you have an idea of what I mean when I use the phrase a box in a box. That cause only acts within the framework established by the first cause. Should any changes be made to this framing, it would be caused by the first cause and not that made. In other words, higher laws can supersede lower laws. The highest of these laws is the law of faith. Faith is the substance of all laws of this caused universe. That highest law is the expression spoke of the supreme being we call God. Thus is the true definition to this word we call faith. Faith comes how? By hearing. And the ability to hear and understand God, ourselves, and the world around us comes from this intelligence we call God speaking to us. Anything assumed and thought within the box, and what science today calls a closed system, is incorrect. It has been expressed to me that as the lid being nailed down to the box. Thus it is assumed that there is nothing outside the box in any form materially manifested or intelligently expressed. Only the box exists to them. It is expressed as humanism, man, in the name of man, by the power of man, to the glory of man. God is to them non-existence. They live in this box without what's called unseen hope. They live in the limitations of that seen based in limited human senses. If you cannot see, hear, taste, smell, touch God, to them this God is non-existent. In the next chapter I will want to get into this matter of energy, how what is being said today has been depersonalizing God and made him out to be just impersonal energy. So venture with me outside this box. Chapter 9. The Depersonalization of God. I've written several articles, one which can be found in my book, In the Shadow of His Power, Chapter 8, which bears repeating here. It addresses this matter of the occult world, calling God an impersonal force, energy, which I now share with you, how this isn't the way that it is. Calling God energy. This is that piece that's in the other book, In the Shadow of His Power. Calling God energy. Calling God energy and depersonalizing this God, doing so would be like my building my house, and years later someone visiting me and saying as they looked over the work I've done and finished, my, look at the energy spent to do all this beautiful woodwork. They walk around me, past me, almost ignoring me, room after room as I follow. They keep saying, what energy could have done this? I know, it had to be very powerful energy. I wonder what has done this? It appears to have form almost as if it has some kind of intelligence. I am thinking as I follow them around, what are they, nuts? I step in front of them, kind of giving them the gesture that I built this house. I tell them that my flesh, sweat, blood, and spent energies are in this house. It is the very expression of my thoughts and who I am. Every board, nail, and every swing and hammer was me. They look at me, they glance around the house and say, oh, I understand. Well, weeks later, and a tragic thing happens. Your house burns to the ground. The death of your house is in the news. You're reading the rest in the newspaper and come to the obituary section to see your name and how you died in the fire. Puzzled, you call the newspaper explaining to them that you're still alive. They reply, no, impossible. Mr. So-and-so reported to us that you died in the fire. Mr. So-and-so said your flesh, sweat, blood, and energy were in that house. It was the very expression of you in that house. The fire destroyed you. What's wrong with this picture? What was meant as a simile was taken as literal. Your flesh, sweat, blood, energy in the house can be the very expression of who you are, but putting this into the house and using the house to say it is me isn't the true me, any more than the energy material universe is God, though he used it to express who he is. Though what we build is an inanimate thing, not living, it can be an expression of who we are. Yet again, not us. Though what God builds is a living thing, a living being, thus has his life in them, and can choose to express who this God isn't him any more than I am my house. Pantheism. Let me define pantheism. Then I will reveal how this old pagan idea is still being taught with a new age mask. Mode of speculation that identifies the universe. Greek, pan, which means all, with the word God, which is Greek theos. Now this gets rather complicated, so I won't explain this. I'll read it, but this comes up out of a encyclopedia. The thinker may start from awareness of the full reality of God, and then seek to include an awareness of the relationship of the dependent reality of the non-divine to that of God. This position is commonly called a cosmic pantheism. Conversely, the thinker may start from an apprehension of the full reality of finite, changing entities and the name God to their all-inclusive, unified totality that is called cosmic pantheism. The most typical representation of a cosmic pantheism comes from the Hindu tradition, the greatest philosophical exponent of which was the Indian philosophical Saqqara, the 9th century AD. The difficulties of a cosmic or visible in his system, tendencies to deny the full reality of the changing finite, to deny the reality of evil, and to see individuals' personality as ultimately unreal. The doctrine that reality comprises a single being of which all things are appearances. Now it's a little now you read that and you get done, you're like saying, what was that? And you have to read about 10 times. I've done that a couple times. After I did that, here's what I came up with, what they were trying to say in that encyclopedia. What I see in this confusing definition, all things are appearances. That's what they said. Some truth to this, but not as they perceive it to be. The heavens do manifest the Godhead and His deity. Yet the heavens aren't God any more than a picture of myself is in me, but an image of my body which contains this me. God and I are more than the vessels we use to manifest or express who we are. My vessel of the body is not this me any more than the vessel of God, uses, us, is Him. Here's another thing they had in the definition. Mode of speculation that identifies the universe with a God. Again, the universe is just a mode of expression God used to describe and demonstrate His nature and character. It is not this God. This universe is sustained by this God. It is not this God being sustained by the universe. This universe could be consummated, and this God would still be God. He created it, sustains it, and will one day consummate it. If the universe was this God, its being consummated would mean the consummation of God. Think of what would have happened if this God was this universe when the worldwide flood occurred. If this God was His universe, a very large part of His mind, for those that they call the collective mind God, a very, very large part of His mind would have been destroyed. Millions perished, and only 8 lived. Think about that. To get into this idea of energy and matter doesn't change this fact. Just because we can say energy is matter and matter is energy doesn't in any way change the fact of God. You can think to do this and come up with what might appear to be true, yet it isn't the way that it is, no matter what science thinks it has discovered lately. It has a long way to go in its views. It starts without God and really isn't trying to prove God. Any idea it comes up with that hints at a God or intelligence in the cosmos isn't addressing what is known of this God. I had an individual say to me that they had thrown out the Bible and the idea of God and now are seeking for answers with their unaided mind. Not anything we as spiritual know of this God, not everything we as spiritual people know of this God is wrong. He can't throw it all out and start over again. You might think he can, but somewhere along the way of your search of this matter, what you once knew, those things which were correct, will come out, slip if you may, out in what you see. For you to do otherwise, someone would have to drain your memory banks, and then you truly could start over. But then again, would you remember to do this? Romans 1:19 reveals this and calls it the inward testimony of the reality of God. You can reject this to the point that your conscience can be seared as with a hot iron, as Paul the Apostle says in 1 Timothy 4:2. Yet still, you have an outward testimony of God, which many are facing today to the point it is said that they become willfully ignorant. 2 Peter 3:5. They've called it the battle between evolution, the impersonal plus time plus chance, and intelligent design. Yet everything science today, either by atomic microscope or the Hubble telescope, screams out intelligence. Another thing about this matter of energy, of course God is powerful, filled with the very energy that, when used and condensed, this said energy forms the material universe and everything in it. Is energy changing energy, or is it the hands of God? We might think God doesn't have hands. He says he doesn't have hands. Maybe this God does. Go read Daniel chapter 5 verse 5. Or if this God chooses to have hands, he can. What caused the hands to be formed and unformed to cause things? Is there something behind energy? We could say intelligence. But what is this thing of intelligence? It too is also some form of energy, vibration, waves. If so, what caused it to vibrate and become waves? What is moving energy? Again, we might say intelligence and end up back wherever we were, except for one more consideration. This God expressed himself in a body likened to ours. In other words, having hands, arms, feet, legs, body, head, and so forth. We could claim this and attempt to prove it from some historical figure like Jesus. But who would believe it? You claim this as Jesus did. You know the rest of the story, and the battles and raging ever since this occurred. I personally believe that God did manifest himself in body form. It was said that this was an eternal desire, this wanting to dwell in the body. Hebrews 10:5. So in truth, if this desire was an eternal desire, this God always was in what we call the resurrected body of Jesus. Our problem is we get hung up on seeing this expressed in time, that which eternally was. It roused the thinking process, right? Just because this God chose a male individual doesn't mean what it may mean to our limited view of the matter. The first Adam was said to have both male and female contained in one body, expressing this God that also said it had contained both. Paul's insight, which he claimed to get from God, said there is neither male nor female, implying that this isn't the issue, that we in this world of seeing divisions think. Paul goes on to express this being, which we will be like, to be a new creation, thus a new being with a new sense of reality, beyond male-female, with a new power. New meaning new us, caught up in this experience of division. You can see the battle down through history over just this one issue. Seeing and experiencing this new being ends this debate. Paul said it this way: though I have known men after the flesh, worldview, I no longer see them in this manner. God had done his best to change things. Others have sought to distort that which he has expressed through those willing to be vessels of this expression. They were shot down. Did we expect anything other than this? This matter of pantheism is only one among other distortions what has been clearly expressed of this God. I know this will meet with objection. I hesitate to share it. So much of current views today is leaning to what is really nothing new. It was taught and practiced down through the centuries and still exists. It may have changed its mass, shrouding what Paul attempted to reveal, but it's still the lie that it is and was back then. God may appear to be a tree to some, simply because it said he is the spaces of matter sustaining it. That is all that he's doing. He is not his creation. If he is not separate from this creation, other than sustaining it, why would the pronouncement be made that they worship the creation more than the Creator? Just this one expression implies a separation, whether we can explain it or not. Taking this further, just because this God is our sustainer does not imply that we are gods in the sense of being this God. We have God-like natures being able to communicate have emotions, will, able to create using the things of this material world coming from this Creator. He may use our unique personage to express himself, be it male or female, but he is as much an individual as we are. Jesus' expression, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father," gets totally misunderstood. We forget that upon entering this world, he set aside the independent use of this attribute of being equal with God the Father, and became as we, a willing servant of the Father. Thus the claim, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." You're seeing the Father's will being expressed to the Son as a willing servant. When we get to that realm, you will meet God in a body form, not a ghost. Superhuman doesn't hit it, but it's better than thinking God is a massive energy and an impersonal force or capable as a friendly ghost. Jesus clearly revealed this body for a brief time for all to see and know. We will be like him. You will have your body form as you know it, yet its molecular structure will be indestructible, a permanent housing who we truly are, eternal beings. You will one day walk with this Jesus. He did not become a ghost, spirit, energy, or any other form other than the body. He demonstrated and challenged them to touch and feel, saying, "See, I have skin and bones. I am not cast as a ghost," as some might one day teach. The collective mind of the eternal knows this, yet the collective mind of this world will reject this, giving their opinions and ideas and attempting to twist what the mind of Christ shared and is still sharing if one receives this mind.